Hello and welcome to the Slow Ready Podcast, a casual conversation about all things Goose. I'm Mike.
I'm Alex.
And we're live together today in Charlottesville, Virginia for the show. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and follow us on our socials at Slow Ready Pod on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter. And in today's episode, we're going to do a mini here, kind of recapping the first week of tour. And since my co-host Alex is a bit of a madman and went to the first 4 shows of the tour, we're going to let him take it away here and tell us a little bit about how the tour opener was in Holmdel, New Jersey.
Yeah, I had a hometown show in Holmdel, New Jersey to start off the tour September 1st. Sunday night, a Labor Day weekend. The vibes were great. The venue was pretty big. Wasn't sure how it was going to go. Big 17,500 capacity venue, and they packed the place out. Started out with the flopener, then went with the second opener back-to-back with Mr. Action, and then we got a big surprise of the night with Cotter singing on Draconian Meter Maid, one of his old songs from his band Swimmer before he joined Goose, which was very exciting. People were really hyped to see him singing, and I think people have been calling for that since he joined the band. And then we got a short drive into Seekers Part 1 and Part 2, and then closing with one of my favorite closers in SOS, and with a Dawn at the end. Whether you think that's a song or not, that's a debate for another show. But really, vibes at an all-time high after that SOS. It's a great way to close a set. No one knew what was coming set 2, and we got a jammy set 2 with the debut of Big Modern, which was kind of a crazy sequence of events there. No one knew what the song was called. There was texts flying around everywhere, not even like El Goose and both podcasts out there, and everybody didn't know what the song was called, just texting everybody to try to figure it out. And they went on a 36-minute and 41-second or something like that jam on this thing. They were definitely exploring and trying to catch a good vibe there, and I think they've tightened it up since then, but very cool to see the third longest jam of all time there. People lost their minds at this new tune. Definitely has like a Dire Straits or We Didn't Start the Fire kind of vibe of the verses, and then just a really catchy chorus that's an earworm, gets stuck in your head. And then after that, you don't even have a chance to breathe. You get into Feel It Now, still dancing your butt off, and just fantastic. That song is a great jam vehicle in my opinion, and I'm curious to see how much further they can take the thing. It seems like it evolves a little bit every tour, and hopefully it continues to get longer and better. And then Madhuvan to close the set, unreal. Honestly, this version, if you haven't listened to it yet, is definitely one worth checking out. Has an argument for one of the best Madhuvans of the year, and I think it's just absolutely fantastic. The dynamics are all over the place. My mind was blown. And then encore break, you get a great cover by the band, Don't Do It. Fantastic. They didn't leave much time for themselves till the curfew at the venue, but it was a nice short song and a cover everyone loves.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic way to kick off the tour there. That second set, obviously huge. The Big Modern, I think, was all anyone was talking about that whole week. So yeah, great first show. And then from there, the band goes on for 3 nights in a row at Boston, and we know how Goose loves their 3-night stands. So Alex was also at all 3 of these. How was night 1 in Boston, Alex?
Well, like Mike said, I was a madman, and I went straight from Holmdel, New Jersey on a 7 a.m. flight to Boston, and was hanging out at Fenway, checking out the bars and the vibes all day. With my good buddy who had actually never seen Goose. And so this was actually a pretty great experience. Not as many jams for night 1, but a lot of songs, just rattling them off back to back. A good preview into the catalog for anyone new who had not been to a show before. So you get a great, fantastic All I Need opener, right into Caution. Awesome cover. And then the debut of another new song, One In, One Out, which I wasn't necessarily sold on in the moment during the main part of the song, but the jam is excellent. It was a pretty short jam there, but I think that this song could become a monster of a jam vehicle. And it's grown on me the more I've listened to it. And then went right back into All I Need. Love that. I love the All I Need sandwich. There's nothing better than a sandwich at a show, in my opinion. I get hyped like, oh my God, it's back. And then we go into Turbulence, which love that song. That's a song that can go anywhere in the set. Just a relatively standard version of that. And then into a really, really solid Rockdale. It wasn't as dark as the one that I highlighted in the last episode by any means, just very standard, but really good. And then a Lead the Way. Always good vibes with Lead the Way. Fantastic stuff. And then we close the first set with Hot Love and the Lazy Poet, which another song that can go anywhere in the set, really. I love it as an opener, love it as a closer, love it as an encore, as we'll see later on this tour. And then set 2, the jams started a little bit. Again, more standard fare. They didn't really dive into too much on the jams that was mind-blowing or unique compared to the Holmdel show that we saw. But a great version of Hot Tea into a shorter tumble than we've seen in the summer tour, about 15-minute or so version. Just always great to hear tumble, but definitely didn't evolve the way that we had seen it in the summer. And then, kind of my highlight of the second set, a Western Sun. We got a jam on this thing. A short jam, but they jammed it out for the first time in a few years, which is fantastic. And then we go into, the beloved Bruce Hornsby, The Way It Is cover. Great stuff. My buddy, who has never seen a Goose show or heard a song in his life, was blown away by how good the cover sounded. And then you close out the set with Empress, which, that's a dance party in itself. Always great. Again, a pretty standard version of that. Nothing super unique compared to the other versions you might listen to, but just always fun. Getting the crowd clapping and dancing. And then the encore was White Lights, which, again, they were cutting it close to the curfew of 11:30 at the venue, but they played past it. I guess they had like a little bit of wiggle room there to be able to play past 11:30, so they did that all 3 nights.
Yeah, great first show in Boston. I gotta say it's probably my least favorite of the 3, but I mean the floor with Goose is a great show, so it was a great show. And I will say that Hot Tea and Empress, while they weren't anything out of this world, they were both very solid and definitely hoping more Western Sun jams to come. So great start.
Yeah, it was terrific. I didn't mean that in any particular way. It's just, if you're looking for a type 2 jam, if you're that kind of person, the Boston shows didn't really deliver in that regard. It was just very boom, boom, boom. Here's what you're going to get. We're going to give you a showcase of what our catalog is like at a standard show.
Yep. So then going into night 2 in Boston, and they switched it up a little bit. Definitely more variety, I think, than night 1. So why don't you take us there, Alex?
Yeah, night 2. Curious when the jams might come, and they continued to kind of bring more jams in as the week went along. This was a fantastic show. Again, rattling off a lot of songs, but they were just picking some of their best stuff, and the set list design, in my opinion, was absolutely fantastic. So you got a pretty, well-known opener in Dr. Darkness to start off, which I love that song. I don't care what anyone says. And then we go into the switch and cover, great instrumental for about 7 minutes or so, into Atlas Dogs, standard version, not the Indie Groove version, we'll see later, into California Magic, and then into Time to Flee, which is a really great run. Just didn't stop the entire time, just continuing song to song to song, and I love when they do that. Even if it's not necessarily like a super cool transition, it's cool to see them just continue playing for like a solid 45-minute run like that. And then we get Silver Rising, always fantastic. And then we got another new song, My Mind Has Been Consumed by Media, another Cotter special there. He's got a really nice voice. I gotta say, I like Cotter singing. More Cotter singing is great. And then we close out the set with 2 big jams in Yeti and Butter Rum, which fantastic. I mean, the dancing did not stop for about 40 minutes there. And then, vibes at an all-time high. Everyone's pumped. I don't think anyone left their spot. Like, usually at set break, you'll have people wandering around. Everyone was so hyped after that Butter Rum that they just kind of stayed in place. And we get an Echo of a Rose opener, which was unfinished, which I was a little bummed about. I kind of like it, wrapping up. But we go right into, and no one really realized it at the show, they did a very fast-paced version of Interlude 2, and then went into Jive 1. And then they brought in the loose ends kind of interpolated in between Jive 1. They got a short little version of loose ends in there, back into Jive 1. And then they went into Redbird. So I lost my shit. I love Redbird. Really solid version. They hit it wasn't as consistent as the cat version I highlighted in the last episode, but they hit a really nice peak on this thing. There's about 5 minutes of it. It's like unbelievable jams for Goose, and they've really figured out how to be like a joint jam band with this song, in my opinion, compared to some of their others that might just be Peter shredding or Rick shredding or whatever. They've really gotten it cohesively built a jam on this. And then we go into Autumn Crossing, baby. We get Travelers into Elmeg, and that's when the text from Mike started that he wanted to murder me.
That's exactly right. This set list is about what I would dream up in my head. Yes, it's a little bit light on the long jams, I'll admit that. And I do miss that in this set. But if you're just looking at song choices, I mean, this set hits the spot for me absolutely perfectly. So I was definitely super jealous of my co host here being at this night.
Shout out to the sirens in the background. We're live here, so we have no control of the sirens in this little hotel room in Charlottesville. But finished out the night with an animal encore. Again, same situation as night one. It's like you're looking at your watch, it's 11:25, and you're like, oh, it's gonna be a short animal, and then they play about a 15-minute version, if I remember right, of Animal. Fantastic. That's another song. It's great, high energy. It gets all the people who might be new fans going, and I think it's a great decision by the band to close with something like that.
No doubt about it. So let's go to the last night in Boston, and then maybe we'll have a debate on which night of the three was the best. But take us to night 3 in Boston, Alex.
So yeah, night 3, everyone's starting to get a little tired, especially me. I've been on my feet for 3 days straight, and I'm in my 30s, so I'm a little bit too old for that. But awesome times. Get a whale opener, which fantastic. I think pretty much any show that you get a whale opener at, you have a good feeling about. And then you get the Mais Que Nada cover, which is always a treat to hear Rick singing in Portuguese. I can never pronounce that right. And then we go into Doc Brown. I lost my mind for that. I was not expecting to get Doc Brown into a really, really great jam on this Indian River. A little bit underrated, I think. It's the 80s synth version they went into, which is not my preferred version, but the jam on this thing is absolutely terrific. Definitely worth listening back to. The band just kind of hit a groove all of a sudden out of nowhere without there being so much jamming the first 2 nights. So I absolutely loved it. And then we go into a shorter version of Wisteria Lane, and the highlight there went into the finishing of Echo of a Rose, which everyone just kind of lost their minds. I don't think they had done that before, where they had split it up among 2 shows. So people were very hyped for that. And then we get our podcast namesake, Slow Ready, to close the set. All the people that were getting stickers in the crowd were bumping me on the shoulders, hyped about it. So that was a pretty nice highlight. And it was a pretty solid version of Slow Ready. I think about 15 minutes there too. And the dance party was awesome. And then it felt like a pretty short set break. But again, people weren't leaving their spots for this thing. In fact, it got more crowded between set break, where we were standing in GA. And then we get Thatch to open up. And again, my co-host was upset with me because he really wants to hear Thatch. And really solid version. It was about 20 minutes or so, and the jam was probably one of the best of the week in terms of the Boston shows. And the band posted it up on our YouTube for you to check out if you want. I'm not sure Mike has watched that yet. Poor guy. I'm giving him so much crap. And then we go into Creatures, which they had been shortening this one up on this year's tour so far, and this was a little bit longer of a version. I think about 15 minutes on this one too, but really, really great. I almost wanted it to go longer at certain points. I was really vibing with this one. But we go into Doobie Song, so Keep the Party Going, just a different, more mellow version of the party. And then we get the coveted Fish in the Sea cover, which absolutely terrific. Again, another song I was not expecting, because after the first 2 nights, I was like, okay, we're going to get some standard fare here, kind of just close it out. This feels like these are shows to try to bring in a new audience and show the highlights of this band. And I was really expecting something like an Arcadia or something like that in the show, but we get a Fish in the Sea, and then we get a 726 into Dripfield, which I think is just peak Goose. I think that's like the signature sound of Goose, and to close out set 2 with that was absolutely terrific. And then shout out to Shamalama Ding Dong being an audible in the encore. Just a fantastic moment. The crowd lost their minds. We got a shout out for this song being requested by the El Goose Times folks who were at the show, and it was absolutely terrific. My wife wanted to kill me on this one. That's the song she wants to see. That's the cover she loves, and she couldn't make it to the show. So, everyone has their phones out taking videos because I think a lot of people were chasing this, and just a great cover. That's probably the highlight of the night for most people.
Yeah, totally kick-ass show. I am going to kill Alex if he keeps talking about Thatch. That is an absolute fact. I was really hoping to hear that at SPAC or today in Charlottesville, but no, in all seriousness, it was an amazing show. The Thatch was great. I've listened to it about 5 or 6 times since that night. I think I would probably it's splitting hairs, but I think I would narrowly pick night 2 over night 3. I think night 3 definitely had the better jam. So if you want to go with that, I definitely understand the argument. But there's just something about that night 2. Again, the set list construction and the flow of it, I love everything about it. But either way you look at it, all 3 nights in Boston, great time.
Yeah, definitely splitting hairs on the night 2 versus night 3 debate. I think that night 1, like you said before, is probably the weakest of the 3, but still a really great time. And I go back and forth between night 2 and night 3. I think I lean night 3 a little bit just because some of these jams were just so excellent, but I think I had more of like my favorite preferred songs in night 2. So really hard decision here. But from here is where I finally get to go home and relax for about 5 minutes. But the band did not. They headed up to Saratoga Springs, New York to go to SPAC for 2 nights versus the 1 night they did there last year. We couldn't make it to night 1, neither me or Mike, but it was a fantastic show, and Mike went to night 2. So I'm going to let him highlight SPAC night 1 here so that he can cry a little bit about what he missed on night 1.
Yeah, so night 1 was, if you weren't there, it was probably devastating. If you were driving up to SPAC like I was that night listening to the show, it's absolutely fabulous from start to finish. They go into a kick-ass Elizabeth to start off the show, and then second cover of Atlas of the year, which I think everyone always is going to welcome that on a set list, into Turn Clouds and Born. Born was outstanding, as it never lets me down. Born is just always there for me. Rosalie McFall, which was the first time played since June of last year. So that was always welcome as well. And then it goes from Bob Don, which I don't think we see that one as much as any of us would like to, but that is always great to see. And then a really great version of Pancakes. I've definitely checked out the Pancakes quite a few times. I'm going to keep coming back to that. But I think everyone is in agreement here that night 2 really steals the show because, good Lord, this arrow was just out of this world. That's how they kick off set 2. It had vibes very similar to the Atlanta arrow. I'm not sure which one is better quite yet because I need to listen to this more, but either way you look at it, this arrow has it. And then it goes into an Everything Must Go that I've got to say is going to definitely be in the running for one of the higher tier jams of the year. That has definitely got all of the goods. And if you thought you had a second to breathe, good luck because we're going into Jeff Engberg. So,
Jeff who?
Jeff Engberg. Sorry. Early in the morning here in this hotel. And then Christmas Card from a Hooker in Minneapolis is what really broke my heart for good. I'm still a little bit dead and numb inside. That one hurt, but man, did they crush it. That was amazing to hear. And then Arcadia and a Hot Love and the Lazy Poet encore, which, as I'm thinking about it, I think I want to see Hot Love in the encore slot more often. Really great high energy way to close out the show, especially if you're ending the main set 2 with Arcadia. So yeah, it's like they came to Saratoga and just set the place on fire.
Yeah, that set 2 is unbelievable. Jeff Engborg is unreal, and I was just giving you crap, but you actually said it right the first time. And then Christmas Card, that was the one that hurt, like you said. That's a big chaser for a lot of folks, and just fantastic. First time played in almost 4 years, 254 shows, it says. Just absolutely crazy, and they capture the emotion of the Tom Waits version of the song like perfectly on this. Just fantastic stuff. And it was like the perfect short song to let the set list breathe a little bit after all that energy to start, and then go into our Arcadia that's just, very standard, but always terrific. And then, like you said, Hot Love at the end. Love it. But we were texting back and forth after the show, and I was telling you, like, dude, night 2 is going to be even better. Don't worry about it. I know this night 1's amazing, but you're going to get the best show of the year at this night 2. And sure enough, you did. You arrived in Saratoga. Give the people the rundown of your day. How was the scene there? What'd you eat for breakfast? How many times did you use the bathroom? No, I'm kidding. Just get into it.
Yeah, so I did make it to night 2, and boy, oh boy, am I glad I did. And it's full attendance bias, recency bias. All the biases are in full effect, but I definitely think I was at the best show of the year. Went in to start off with Atlas Dogs, played it in its indie groove orientation for the first time since I think it was 2022, and it sounded fantastic. Don't get me wrong, huge fan of the new arrangement of Atlas Dogs, but it just kind of worked really well having the throwback version to start off the show. It was a great vibe to start off on. And then we go into Lead Up, which always packs a short but powerful punch. No exception here. And then we go into a very, very funky Earthling or Alien. That really got the shed going. Humongous dance party at that point. Blood Buzz Ohio, definitely one of the better Goose covers. And I could see quite a few people that were exhilarated that they were playing it. It made the show for a lot of people. I could definitely tell on their faces. And then it goes into Big Modern for the second time. A little bit of a tighter arrangement than we heard in New Jersey. In my opinion, I think it actually worked better this way, being at around 20-minute mark. It was a more defined structure, but still just an awesome jam vehicle. I think it's definitely my favorite of the new songs. Want to see that stick around for good. And then into The Old Man's Boat, which it's usually a short boat, but it was a fine boat. And then a hot tea that, while not anything out of this world compared to some of the best hot teas of all time, it was still very great. It still definitely had a lot of sauce on it. But then we go to set 2, and really, to be honest with you, set 2 is what it's all about. It's a 3-song set 2. If you're like me, you normally, well, 4 songs, but Give It Time is short, so it was like 3 big songs. So it was Hunger Site. This is my jam of the year currently, I think. We're only a couple days into this, so I admit that I have to listen a bit more to be totally sure, but right now I really think this Hunger Site is the jam of the year. And then, like I said, it goes into Give It Time, which is one of the new songs that they haven't played very often yet, but everyone loves it. It was really great that such a new song, everyone knows all the words. So to see that many people singing in unison with our favorite band, I got a little bit of goosebumps during Give It Time. But short and sweet there into a drive, which, if you don't think Hunger Site is the jam of the year, you may fall on the side that this drive is the jam of the year, because either way you look at it, I think these are the top 2 jams of the year for me right now. And then, holy mother of God, they go into Sinner Man. And I think Pete calls it out in the stream, but when they come back to do the encore, he calls out specifically what we all saw, which was, I mean, the aisles were filled with dancing circles of people during Sinnerman. I mean, it was fast, it was furious, and I've never seen people moving like that at a concert before. It was just absolute insanity. And then they come out with what you think is going to be a typical So Ready encore, but they give you a bonus and go into Salt, STL, Zalt. I don't know what we're calling it or where we're going to land on this, but the song is kick ass, and going from So Ready into that much energy, I mean, what a fantastic way to close out the weekend. And this run is going to be up there for a very long time, and I certainly hope we get a live release from the weekend.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way they don't make a live release out of this show. Just outstanding. The set 1, like you said, is terrific, but it really was just a ramp up to this insane set 2. That Hunger Site is unbelievable. Definitely the best of the year. But I have to agree with what you said later, that drive, if you don't think the Hunger Site is the jam of the year, is outstanding. It absolutely blows the one that I mentioned in last episode out of the water, in my opinion. Even though it's shorter, it's very tight, and just some of the best jamming this band's ever done. You can hear them just vibing and understanding each other so well. It's almost like they're like an amorphous being just that understands each other, like without even having to look at each other. And they're just in such a great place right now. These were the shows that you wanted to see if you were at Boston and were missing the jams. Um, and then the encore, So Ready starts. And you're like, okay, cool. Like they're ending with So Ready. That's a great finish to a show. And then they surprise us by going into Salt STL. I really wish they'd just pick a name. I'm going to just say Salt or STL. I don't know. I have to decide which one I'm going to stick with. But people were giving us grief on the socials for changing it. But I'm like, I promise you, it says Salt on their page. So anyway, just fantastic. That we were wondering when that song was going to come back. And it's a great encore song, honestly. Nice and short, packs a punch. And the dance parties looked fantastic from what I saw. So absolutely terrific show for you to pick to go to, Mike. I think Charlottesville is going to be even better. I'm going to delude myself into thinking that. But really excited to be at this show together with you, Mike. Got any predictions for tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I'm ready for whatever. Definitely very excited. This is our first time actually catching a show together in person. So very excited. Tiny venue. Love seeing Goose in these small venues when you get the chance, because I don't know how much longer we'll be able to do it. So very hyped for tonight's show. I think there is a very decent chance there may be a DMB cover, being that this is kind of their backyard. And Rick, according to the podcast recently, has been having a resurgence and going back and listening through Dave's discography. I think that's, kind of likely that might happen. But outside of that, I mean, this was one of the best first weeks of tour that I can remember. So, I mean, the train is firing on all cylinders and, ready to just keep this party going.
Hell yeah, man. Cannot wait for tonight. And like you said, we saw a lot of the DMB Goose crossover walking around town last night. I think people are excited for whatever's coming tonight, but that would be a really cool touch in the home of DMB. So anyway, we wanted to keep this one brief and short. We're going to be at the show in our Slow Ready podcast shirts, handing out stickers. Come find us. I've got my bright orange hat on. Mike will have a Slow Ready shirt on. He'll probably be jumping on my shoulders, listening to sound check at some point out there on the main downtown concourse. And just make sure that if you like what you're hearing, follow us on the socials at Slow Ready Podcast. We're everywhere, and we're anywhere you get your podcasts. So if you have friends who are interested, please let them know. We've had so much fun getting to know you these first few episodes, and it's been an unbelievable first few weeks of release. We've gotten big enough. We're getting internet trolls now, even, Mike. So I think we're doing something right. But anyway, thanks for checking us out. Hope you enjoyed the episode. And Mike, take us out.
Yeah, thanks so much, everyone. Definitely come say hi tonight if you see us. And we are working on next episode already. So stay tuned. More coming.
See you later, guys.